Today we're breaking down something every man has either experienced or will experience. When a woman pulls away, ignores you, or even leaves you, only to suddenly circle back once you've given her space. The topic is simple but explosive. Why she comes back after you give her distance, and what you should do when she does. Now, here's where things get uncomfortable, and this is why most men never figure it out. Women don't always return because of love, loyalty, or some fairy tale realization. Many times she comes back because your silence exposed something she wasn't ready to face, the reality that her control over you wasn't as strong as she thought. That's the controversial truth men overlook. When you stop chasing, when you stop making her the center of your world, it shakes her ego, it unsettles her, and it forces her to question if she misjudged your value. Men are conditioned to believe that when a woman returns, it must mean she regrets leaving or she suddenly recognizes your worth. But you need to hear this. Her return doesn't automatically mean reconciliation. Sometimes it's testing, sometimes it's validation, sometimes it's strategy. That's why your response is critical, because how you handle it determines whether you stand as the man in control or whether you slide back into the same trap. Welcome to the channel, where we don't sugarcoat and we don't repeat the tired dating cliches. This is about giving you the clarity and edge to navigate women's behavior with confidence. In this video, you'll not only learn the psychology behind why women come back after you give them distance, but also the exact mindset and actions you should take when they reappear. Stay locked in. This one will change the way you see relationships forever. Before we start the video, I want to remind you that my exclusive online course on mastering the dating game is available now. If you've been learning from my YouTube videos, you're only scratching the surface. This course goes deeper, teaching you everything you need to know about the dating game, from approaching a woman to building real attraction. We just finished section 5 in the course, and you won't find this information on videos on my channel. It's easy to access with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or click the link in the description to enroll now and improve your dating life. 1. The power of distance. Most men don't realize that distance is one of the most powerful tools they can use in relationships. And I'm not talking about playing games, acting cold, or pretending you're busy. I mean genuinely pulling back your attention, your energy, and your presence in a way that forces her to feel your absence. When you stop reaching out, when you stop being available at every little call or text, you create a space that completely changes the dynamic. Why does this matter? Because in most cases, women expect you to chase. They expect you to be the one who keeps the connection alive, even when they pull away. They believe that your desire will always outweigh their effort. And here's the uncomfortable reality. When you constantly pursue, you confirm that belief. She knows no matter how she acts, you'll still be there waiting. That kills attraction, it kills respect, and it makes you look replaceable. But when you introduce distance, you disrupt that pattern. Suddenly she feels something she didn't expect. Uncertainty. She starts to wonder why you've gone quiet, why you're not checking in, why you're not chasing anymore. That space you create doesn't just test her feelings, it makes her confront her own value in your world. Did she overestimate her hold on you? Did she underestimate your options? Those questions eat away at her, and that's exactly when curiosity, doubt, and even panic creep in. This is why so many women return after a man gives them space. The silence screams louder than any argument, any begging, or any explanation you could ever give. She might not admit it, but that distance makes her realize that your presence was not guaranteed. It makes her rethink her decisions, and in some cases, it makes her chase you just to restore the balance she thought she controlled. Now, here's the part most men get wrong. They use distance as a tactic instead of a mindset. They think, if I ignore her for 3 days, she'll text me. That's not real power, that's manipulation. True power comes from genuinely detaching, from living your life without waiting for her reaction. When you put your focus back on yourself, your goals, your growth, your time, you're not just creating space, you're raising your value. You're showing that you're not a man who collapses without her attention. That's what makes distance magnetic. It's not about punishing her, it's about recentering yourself. When she sees that, it shifts everything. She no longer feels certain that you'll always be there. And ironically, that's exactly what pulls her back. Distance is not weakness. It's strength disguised as silence. And the man who understands this will never have to beg for a woman's respect again. 2. Why silence shakes her. When a man goes silent, it does more damage to a woman's confidence than almost anything else. Silence is not just the absence of words, it's the absence of reassurance, the absence of control, and the absence of knowing where she stands with you. That's why it shakes her to the core. Most men underestimate the psychological effect of silence. They think if they're not texting her or calling her, she'll just forget about them. But here's the reality. Silence makes a woman confront herself in ways she doesn't want to. When you were available, she could always predict your behavior. She knew you'd respond, she knew you'd reach out, and she knew her presence in your life was secure. That gave her comfort, but it also gave her the upper hand. The moment you remove that predictability, everything changes. Suddenly, she's not sure how much space she actually occupies in your life. And women are wired to notice shifts in attention. When your voice goes missing, when your messages stop popping up on her screen, it leaves a void she can't ignore. That void quickly turns into overthinking. Why hasn't he called me? Is he seeing someone else? Did I lose my place in his world? Those questions multiply in her mind, and the silence does what constant talking never could. It makes her chase the answers. This is why silence is so effective. Words can be debated, argued, or dismissed. But silence? It can't be argued with. It's undeniable, it lingers, and it leaves her no choice but to fill in the blanks. And usually, she fills those blanks with fear. Fear of losing you, fear of being replaced, or fear that she miscalculated your value. Now here's the lesson for men. Silence only works if it's real. If you're sitting there staring at your phone, waiting for her to message first, then your silence isn't genuine. It's fake discipline, and women can sense when a man is just pretending to be strong. Real silence comes from detachment. It comes from you being too busy, too focused, and too disciplined to beg for her attention. That's when silence becomes powerful. Think of it this way. Women are used to men breaking silence first. They expect you to fold. When you don't, you show her that you're not like every other man she's dealt with. You're not dependent on her responses to validate your worth. That alone shifts the dynamic. So remember this. Your silence is not emptiness. It's a statement. It says, I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to chase you. I don't need to fight for your attention. You'll either value me or lose me. And that message, delivered without a single word, shakes her more than any argument ever could. 3. Ego versus genuine interest. One of the biggest mistakes men make when a woman comes back is assuming it always means she's genuinely interested again. The hard truth is that sometimes she's not coming back because of love, care, or real attraction. She's coming back because her ego took a hit when you pulled away. And as a man, you need to learn how to tell the difference. Here's how it works. When you create distance, you strip away the comfort she had in knowing you'd always be there. For some women, this sparks reflection. They start to realize they miss you. They value what you brought into their life. And they may want to reconnect for real. That's genuine interest. But for others, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about regaining a sense of control. Your silence challenged their self-image. They thought they could walk away, explore their options, and you'd still be waiting. But when you didn't chase, when you didn't beg, it created a bruise on their ego. Coming back to you in that moment isn't about love, it's about validation. They want to make sure they can still have you if they want you. Now here's where you need to be smart. If you confuse her ego-driven return with genuine interest, you risk putting yourself right back into a weak position. You'll start giving her all the attention she craved, and the moment her ego is satisfied, she may disappear again. That cycle destroys your confidence over time. So how do you spot the difference? Look at her actions, not just her words. A woman who's genuinely interested won't just reach out for quick validation. She'll be consistent. She'll make time, she'll invest effort, and she'll show you through her behavior that she values being in your presence. On the other hand, a woman acting out of ego will be hot and cold. She'll test if you're still available, maybe flirt or start small talk, but her actions won't match her words. This is where your discipline as a man comes in. You can't afford to let excitement cloud your judgment just because she reached out. You need to stay calm, observe, and let her reveal her true motives. That's how you protect yourself from being pulled back into the same old pattern. Remember this: genuine interest is shown in consistency, effort, and respect. Ego is shown in temporary curiosity and half-hearted gestures. Your job is to tell the difference. Because once you do, you'll never waste energy on a woman who only comes back to feed her pride. When you know how to separate ego from real interest, you take control of the situation. You stop being the man who blindly celebrates her return, and you become the man who decides if she even deserves a second chance. 4. Testing your strength. When a woman comes back after distance, one of the first things she often does, whether she realizes it or not, is test your strength. She wants to see if you've really changed, if you've grown, or if you're still the same man she could control before. This is not always malicious, sometimes it's just instinct. But if you're not aware of it, you'll fail the test without even realizing it. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine a guy named David. He was in a relationship where he constantly gave more than he received. He always texted first, he rearranged his schedule to see her, and he tolerated behavior that didn't respect him. Eventually, she pulled away, maybe even left because she felt no challenge. David was predictable. He thought that by being overly available, he was proving his love. Instead, he was draining all the attraction out of the relationship. Now, here's where it gets interesting. After David finally stopped chasing, after he decided to focus on his career, his gym routine, and his friends, she noticed his silence. Weeks later, she popped back into his life with a simple, "Hey, how have you been?" This is where most men fail. They see that message and think it's a full reunion, but in reality, it's often the beginning of a test. When she reconnects, she's watching closely. Will David drop everything to run back to her? Will he immediately give her the same energy she once took for granted? Or will he stay calm, centered, and measured in his response? Here's the key lesson. Women often return not just to see you, but to see if you've changed. They want to know if you're still a man whose world revolves around them, or if you've built enough self-respect to hold your ground. If David instantly falls back into his old pattern, texting non-stop, over-explaining, begging for another chance, she'll lose interest just as quickly as she came back. But if he maintains his composure, replies without rushing, and keeps living his life, she'll realize he's not the same man she left behind. Men need to understand this. Every interaction after she comes back is a silent exam. She might push your buttons, bring up old memories, or even flirt with the idea of leaving again. It's not always intentional cruelty. Sometimes it's her way of measuring if you're truly strong enough to handle her emotions and independence. Passing the test isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about showing that you value yourself. It's about responding from a place of calm rather than desperation. The man who can do that proves he's not desperate for her validation. He's offering his presence as a choice, not a need. And that, ironically, is what makes her respect him more than ever. 5. When she wants control back. When a woman comes back after distance, one of the most common motives is not always love, it's control. She wants to see if she still has the same influence over you. This is the moment most men lose the upper hand without realizing it, because they confuse her attention for affection and hand her the steering wheel all over again. Here's what usually goes wrong. A man gets that long-awaited text, "I miss you," or "We should catch up." Immediately, his excitement takes over. He replies too quickly, he clears his schedule, he showers her with attention, and he starts saying things like, "I've been waiting for this," or "I'll do whatever it takes this time." In his mind, he's showing commitment. But to her, it signals something else. He's still easy to control. The moment she sees that, the attraction fades, because she knows she can walk in and out of his life on her terms. Now, let's talk about the right way. When she comes back, you must set the tone with calm strength. This doesn't mean being rude, cold, or dismissive. It means showing that you are no longer the man she can manipulate with minimal effort. When she says, "I miss you," instead of falling into her arms, your response should be measured. Something like, "It's good to hear from you. What made you reach out now?" That flips the script. You're not blindly celebrating her return, you're making her explain herself. Another example, if she says, "We should see each other," the weak response is, "Yes, whenever you want." The strong response is, "If we do that, it has to be different this time." I'm not interested in repeating the past that tells her you value yourself enough to set conditions. You're not chasing her approval, you're making her earn her place back in your life. It's also important to avoid emotional over-explanations. Don't write essays about how hurt you were or how long you've been waiting. Those confessions might feel honest, but they give her the upper hand. Instead, keep your words simple, clear, and direct. The less you explain, the more powerful your presence feels. Here's the real secret. Women respect boundaries more than begging. If you calmly state what you expect and what you won't tolerate, you make her realize that coming back to you is not just about soothing her ego, it's about respecting your standards. And that's exactly what keeps you in control of the situation. So remember, the wrong move is to hand her all the power again by being desperate for her return. The right move is to meet her halfway, with clarity, boundaries, and strength in your words. That's how you make sure her comeback is on your terms, not hers. 6. How to respond calmly. When a woman comes back after distance, the way you respond determines everything. This is the moment where most men either rise above or fall right back into old habits. If you respond with too much emotion, whether that's excitement, anger, or desperation, you give away your strength. But if you respond calmly, you keep the power in your hands and force her to meet you on your level. Why is calmness so? Because it shows control. Women read into your reactions more than your words. If she sends you a message and you blow up with anger about the past, she knows you're still emotionally tied to her decisions. If you respond with over-the-top excitement, she sees you as a man who never moved on. But when your response is measured, steady, and unshaken, you send the strongest message possible. You are not desperate, and you are not easily moved. Here's what that looks like in practice. Say she texts, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." The wrong reaction is to instantly pour your heart out, saying, "I've missed you too. I can't stop thinking about us." That reveals that you've been waiting. Instead, the calm response is short but strong. "I've been good. What made you reach out?" Notice the difference? You didn't ignore her, but you didn't melt into her words either. You gave her a chance to explain herself. Another scenario, she asks if you want to meet up. The weak emotional reaction is, "Yes, of course, whenever you want." That screams availability. The calm response, "Maybe." Let's see if it makes sense. That line keeps you in control because it shows you're not rushing to please her. You're considering whether her return actually benefits you. Calm responses also prevent you from being manipulated. Sometimes when women come back, they'll bring up the past or try to stir emotions to test your reaction. If you defend yourself aggressively or fall into arguments, you've already lost the frame. The calm man doesn't argue. He simply says, "That's the past." If we're moving forward, it has to look different, firm, clear, and emotionless. Men often think calmness makes them look like they don't care. But here's the truth. Calmness makes you look valuable. Any man can get emotional, but not every man can stay composed when faced with temptation or drama. That's what separates men she respects from men she toys with. So, when she comes back, your job isn't to win her over with big emotional speeches. Your job is to stay centered, respond without rushing, and let her reveal whether her intentions are genuine. Calmness isn't passive, it's powerful. It's you saying, "I control myself, I control my emotions, and I'll decide if this works for me." And that's exactly the type of energy that makes her respect you all over again. 7. Turning the tables in your favor. When a woman comes back after you've given her distance, the worst mistake you can make is treating it like she's doing you a favor. That mindset puts her back in control, and you'll end up repeating the same cycle that pushed her away in the first place. The right way to handle her return is to flip the script, to turn the tables in your favor so you're the one deciding how this plays out. How do you do that? First, by understanding this truth. Her return is already proof of your value. If she walked away but still felt compelled to come back, it means your silence had an impact. She noticed your absence and it stirred something inside her. That alone shows you're not the disposable man she assumed you were. Recognize that power, because if you don't, you'll fall back into seeking her approval instead of standing firm in your own. Turning the tables starts with your mindset. Instead of asking yourself, how do I win her back? You should be asking, does she deserve a place back in my life? That simple shift puts you in the position of choice. Remember, she left once already, so the burden of proving effort lies on her, not you. Now let's talk action. When she comes back, don't make yourself instantly available. Keep living your life as if nothing stopped. If she wants to reconnect, she has to fit into the schedule and the standards you've set. This isn't about playing games. It's about showing that your life has structure and direction without her. That creates respect. When conversations happen, keep them light but intentional. Instead of diving into old emotions, focus on the present and the future. If she wants another chance, let her demonstrate it through consistency, effort, and respect for your boundaries. Make it clear, without aggression, that the relationship will only move forward if it's healthy and mutually beneficial. For example, you can say, if we're doing this again, it can't look like last time. I value peace and respect too much to go backwards. Simple, strong, and clear. Here's what makes this strategy so effective. Women aren't used to men holding the frame after they return. They expect you to roll out the red carpet, beg for another chance, and forget the past. When you don't, when you calmly set the standard, you create a new dynamic, one where she has to earn you back. And that's where the balance shifts in your favor. At this stage, you're no longer the man trying to prove yourself. You're the man evaluating if she aligns with your life. That's attractive, that's powerful. And that's how you make sure her comeback benefits you instead of dragging you back into the same old mistakes. Turning the tables isn't about revenge or arrogance, it's about reclaiming your position as the prize. When you do that, you'll never look at a woman's return the same way again. When a woman comes back after distance, it's not automatically a victory, it's an opportunity. She returns because your silence shifted the balance, but what happens next depends entirely on how you respond. Don't mistake ego-driven interest for genuine effort. Don't rush back into old patterns. Instead, stay calm, set clear boundaries, and decide if she truly deserves a place in your life. Remember, you are the prize, and your value doesn't disappear just because she left. Handle her return with strength, and you'll never lose control of the relationship dynamic again.